Hello everyone, welcome to the IAS Mentor Modern Indian History series. We are continuing the rise of nationalism. One announcement for you, the IAS Mentor has already started mentorship program. For further details, please keep following the IAS Mentor channel. In this class, we are going to understand three phases of INC leadership, but the first one of these three phases, moderate phase, we are going to understand today. Already we have seen the formation of Indian National Congress. We have seen who was the founder and who are the various initial leaders. Broadly, INC is going to stay from 1885 onwards, stay relevant for many decades to come. Even today also, it is playing an important role in Indian politics. From 1885 to till independence, till India got independence, broadly, INC leadership can be divided into three phases. The first phase from 1885 to 1905. Up to this time period, the first phase we call moderate phase. Moderate phase. From 1905 to 1918. Second phase or extremist phase in INC activities, INC leadership, and so on. The third phase, 1918 to 1948, Gandhian phase. Gandhiji is going to dominate Indian National Congress leadership and the political spectrum of that time period. He is going to dominate. From 1905 to 18, extremist leaders are going to dominate. From 85 to 1905, they are moderates who are going to dominate the political spectrum of this time period. We have to know what is the contribution of this phase. What are the methods of these leaders? What are the achievements of these leaders? And what are the limitations of these leaders? Whatever they achieve, it is going to inspire the next generation. Whatever limitations they had, and this leadership is going to improve on top of it. Whatever these two phases are missing, and this phase is going to reform it and going to take the national freedom fight forward. Here it is only in relative sense. Moderates and extremists, this is only relative in sense, based on their goals, their methods, based on their goals and methods, broadly the leadership divided into two segments, moderates and extremists. And Gandhian phase, it is easy to understand that from this time period onwards, national leadership dominated by Gandhian presence. That is why Gandhiji is going to lead. From 85 to 1905, whatever the leadership we are calling as moderates, because they want to follow constitutional methods. They do not want to challenge the British authority altogether. Their aim is not to remove British administration and completely overthrow British Raj and replace a new kind of political system. Their aim is not that one. In the previous classes also, we already mentioned briefly that since 1764 Battle of Buxar, 1765 dual governance, dual government, then 1773 Regulating Act, 1784 Pitt's India Act. You see, we are almost about to finish the modern Indian history, but still we are talking to the initial pages because everything connected. Our Indian constitution connects from this time period. And since this time period, what is happening? Executive, legislature, judiciary. Supreme Court of Fort William was established by which act? Regulating Act. Governor General in Executive Council was started by which act? Regulating Act. Then it is going to be reformed in Pitt's India Act. And if you see 1833 Charter Act, law member is going to be added to Executive Council and for the legislation purpose. Then 1853 for legislation purpose 6 members, and 1861 Indian Councils Act. Indian Councils Act, you see the name itself, Indian Councils Act, legislation purpose. So they are trying to bring parliamentary system. Parliamentary system, that means crown will not decide on her own or on his own. If king is there, king will not decide everything on his own. King is going to be advised by Council of Ministers. And these Council of Ministers, again, they are not going to decide without any kind of accountability. They are accountable to Parliament. Checks and balances. Here, no one is absolute. But if you take Mughal Emperor, Aurangzeb decides everything. There is nothing like this. Akbar decides everything. Alauddin Khilji decides everything. Samudragupta decides everything. Ashoka the emperor decides everything. That is what absolute powers in the hands of rulers means. Kings, queens, they are absolute in nature. No one can question them. If they are enlightened leaders, welfare policies are going to be followed in the kingdom or empire. If they are mad, if king is a mad king, if queen is a mad queen, then they don't know what they are doing. Ultimately, people are going to be exploited. What about inexperienced king is sitting on the crown? Then, if no control over the powers, they are going to take decisions on their own arbitrarily. There is no rational ground, arbitrarily, and they imagine something, they will take the decisions. Muhammad bin Tughlaq, he has taken decisions, he experimented many things, but everything is a failure. And the advisors also very much afraid to give even good suggestion also. Even if suggestions are given, kings may not follow. That kind of system changed. Powers now not in the hands of single power, concentration of powers not there. Ultimately, this region or the kingdom does not belong to king, it belongs to the people. So crown powers are controlled by Council of Ministers. Council of Ministers power controlled by Parliament, and Parliament itself is representatives of common public. Parliament is not a simple body with some members. They are the representative of the people. That means people are deciding the fate of their kingdom. This is what modern, this is called constitutional monarchy. This kind of system is called constitutional monarchy. But the system like Aurangzeb, Akbar, or Muhammad bin Tughlaq, or Gupta, or Ashoka, that type of leadership is called absolute monarchy. No one can question them. Constitutional monarchy means monarch also has certain limitations. They have to follow by the rules. That rule is constitution. In 1215, Magna Carta, a great charter. Since then, the powers of crown limited in England. That tradition is continuing in 1800s also. That is why British proudly say that the modern democracy emerged from England. In America also they experimented like this, but they went one step ahead. In America they removed crown. Here also one among the common public going to sit there. That position is called president. Again, executive, legislature, and judiciary will be there. In that way, power is coming from the hands of rulers to the hands of the people. This is what political developments in England. Because of this, when European countries were reeling under absolute monarchy, they were not able to develop. Whereas England, with this kind of system, they were developing, flourishing. Ideas flourished, philosophies flourished, literature flourished, science flourished, technology flourished. As a result, England is able to rule the world. Now, that administration, one of the most successful regions of the world, they are ruling this land also. By 1880s, this is the scenario. Now, in this country, the leaders are educated sections were closely following these developments in England also, in India also. What about Indian scenario? Before British Empire started, India was under so many rulers. In northwestern area, continuous wars and battles. Nadir Shah invaded Delhi. Ahmad Shah Abdali invaded Delhi. Marathas invaded Delhi. Delhi itself disintegrated. Delhi power now became weak. Bengal Nawab, Awadh Nawab, Nizam, Carnatic, Maratha Empire, George, Sikh Kingdom, so many kingdoms. On top of it, that is politically. On top of it, when it comes to society, English society is talking about liberalism, liberty, equality. When it comes to here, caste, religion, untouchability, restrictions on women. This society is talking about freedom. This society is talking about restrictions. Now, when this society is talking about freedom, they were flourishing. Their people are flourishing. And when it comes to this, here people are living in ignorance. Some people were being treated very inhumanely, like untouchables, slaves, this kind of system. And when it comes to science and technology also, they were enjoying good science and technological innovations. Medicine facilities also increased, their living standard also improved, life expectancy also increased. When it comes to here same superstitions for removing the illness. Education is backward, science backward. That is why when English education started in India, they started comparing Indian condition with Western condition. West is flourishing, and when it comes to India is not flourishing. Their ideas are backward. These leaders expected that this leadership, their presence, these laws are going to benefit India also. This theory is known as British Providential Theory. British or English Providential Theory. That means English or here, this is our opportunity. It is India's luck. It is India's opportunity to be ruled by English people, because they are coming from a society where people were following liberal values, and it is expected that India also going to benefit out of their presence. Providential theory. And they also believed in, the initial leaders believed British sense of rule of law, justice, fair play. When it comes to England, they do all these things. In England, they follow rule of law, fair play, justice system for the English people. But only problem is when it comes to India and British, they will never follow this one. To some extent they follow, but whenever conflict arises between British interest and Indian interest, they will not play the fair game. They will not show justice. They discriminate based on race. But despite that, initial leaders were still believing in this. And when it comes to British, they are propagating civilizing mission. God has given mandate to civilize so-called uncivilized world. Indians are backward, civilized, not civilized. God has given English people opportunity to come out of this dogmatism, superstitions, and they are flourishing. That development should be shared with others also, like Indians. That is why their mission is to develop Indians, not to exploit. When it comes to initial leadership, believed all these things because already they are seeing some developments in the form of socio-religious reforms. Socio-religious reforms, socio-religious reforms inspired from the of Western ideas, and they were trying to remove caste system, untouchability, girl children, child marriages, most inhumane practice, sati practice. Already British passed certain laws also. Sati Abolition Act they passed. Widow Remarriage Act also passed. Slavery also abolished in 1740, in 1840s. In 1856, Widow Remarriage Act. 1829, Sati abolition. They are taking even steps to stop infanticide, killing the babies, infanticide. And they maintained law and order in the country. So this is what British used to say, that Pax Britannica, peace across Indian subcontinent due to British. Peace established. Now modern values in the form of these principles, these laws, and also education, English education, modern education, which is teaching modern values, which is coming away from the conservative ideas. And also they were trying to create a system like British Parliament. Here also executive, here also legislature. Initial leadership were seeing all these things since the beginning of British establishment. They have seen what are the policies taken by the British, what is the nature of Indian society. And Indian society is conservative, these kind of laws are important. That is why they are very much confident that gradually English truly going to establish British style of administration. Here, viceroy and executive wing and legislature wing. Indians were comparing this viceroy like a crown in England, and cabinet there, parliament. So Indian leaders were comparing like this. Like this cabinet control the executive or civil services, and here also civil services, military, police, revenue department, welfare department, agriculture department, everything. Legislature, they are making the laws. They are useful coming out of Sharia law, Dharma Shastras. But the law itself is not equal. Sharia law is not applied for both equally, both for Hindus and Muslims. Hindus have to pay the tax jizya for following religion. Dharma Shastras for untouchables, Shudras, it is different. For upper caste and Brahmanas, a different kind of privilege. The law itself is not equal, and it is considered as the law coming from the gods, that kind of belief. Now, when it comes to this kind of system, this law is not based on religion. This law based on rational application of the mind. We are not dependent on the gods. We are dependent on the human beings. Humans only make the laws. And these laws are going to be applied equally for everyone. Equality before law. Initial leaders were comparing Indian society on one hand and British policies on the other hand, they are convinced that the British administration in the long run is going to help India. That is why in 1857 revolt, when 1857 revolt came, this educated section wholeheartedly could not support it. But there are issues. They were saying this, but they are not fulfilling these promises. But in principle, they are saying that their aim is to give this modern system framework to Indians. That is why initial leaders believed that British policies in India are good, only that British do not know what are the requirements of Indians. If we enlighten the administrators, British administrators both in India and in England, they are going to bring more reforms. These reforms are slow because they are not able to understand the requirement of Indians. If we Indians highlight the issues that are there prevailing in India, if we demand them, both in India and England, they are going to bring reforms through parliamentary legislation and through executive action. This is what British providential theory, they are believing in the fair justice and fair play. So English sense of justice and fair play, they were doing like this. So they are purely comparing Indian condition 100 years ago and now. So naturally, what is going to be the demand of early leaders? Now they are not against British system. That is why they are called moderates. If there is any kind of grievance, they are going to pray, they are going to petition, they are going to protest that you are not doing this. But they will not go for extra constitutional methods because they want constitutionalism in India. Before British, there is nothing like that. Now British are bringing that constitutional values. That is why they want to strictly follow that constitutional values, so that they will learn how to play politics, and also they want to teach the Indian public also how to rule, how to govern India through rule of law, that is constitution. Altogether, this kind of politics are different to Indians. Earlier, Indian Nawabs were depending on Shariat, Maulvis were advisors, and Rajas were depending on Dharma Shastras, Pandits were advisors to them. And when it comes to the law itself is not equal for everyone, but Nawab is ruling all the religions, Raja is also ruling all religions. Even though they are liberal in nature, but in theory itself, this law is not equal. That is why when it comes to initial leaders believed India needed this kind of modern constitutional values. British, even though they are slow, they are gradually bringing, that is good for India. They believed in the English sense of justice and fair play. They believed in the British providential theory. They believed in the white man burden theory. They believed in English are here for civilizing Indians. They just need help from Indians. If Indians also support wholeheartedly, this reform becomes faster. That is why initial leaders are going to play by the book. That is constitutional. Constitutional methods only they are going to use. Like English constitution gave people to protest peacefully. They can give the memorandums. They can write articles in the newspapers, and they criticize the legislation. They criticize the government freely. That is the freedom that constitution has given them. Indians are also expecting similar kind here also. That is why the methods they used, they are called 3 Ps. What are the 3 Ps? Prayer, petition, and protest. So now, is it clear now? Why initial leaders called moderates? Because their methods are moderate. Why they are called moderates means they are not going to criticize completely, or they don't want to remove the British Raj. In fact, they are expecting British Raj to function even more efficiently with more reforms. That is why they are called moderates in comparison with the next leadership. When it comes to the methods, they were using prayer, petition, third, protest constitutionally. They will not take the weapons. They will not go for extra constitutional, unconstitutional methods within the limits, within the rights given by the constitution they want to play. But when you ask British in such manner, they are not responding. That is the issue. The British are taking obedience as weakness. Indians are obedient, but English administrators are taking it as weakness. That is why the next stage of leaders are going to show that strength. Indians, because we are obedient, that's why you are able to rule. If we are not that, then you are not going to rule. That's why the next leadership go one step ahead. The moment Gandhiji comes, he is going to use satyagraha, non-violence only, but still he is going to be disobedient. Non-civil disobedience movement he is going to bring. It's not single leader, he is going to bring masses. That is the difference with respect to Gandhian. So methods, this one. And when it comes to the belief that no masses in political movement. They are working for the people only. People need to be uplifted. But common masses do not understand this kind of politics. They do not understand legislature. They do not understand executive. They do not understand constitutional monarchy. Their problems are poverty, illness, education. They have to be provided. But they are not yet capable. So initial leaders, they are believing that masses are not yet capable to understand this. That's why on behalf of masses, leaders, educated leaders, they have to fight in favor of masses for the sake of masses with British. But when it comes to the extremist leadership, they are going to say that without bringing masses, what kind of pressure you are going to put? That's why we are going to bring masses. That is what more extremist leadership. And when it comes to Gandhiji, he is going to bring a lot of people into the streets. That's why that phase is going to become more successful. So stage by stage, they are setting the stage. Initially, no doubt, initially masses do not understand. They have to teach them. That is what their primary aim is. The primary aim is to teach both the top layer, that is British, and the bottom layer, common masses, ignorant masses. So they are acting like a bridge. At that particular point of time, that kind of leadership is needed, because if you go extreme step, British are crushing very violently. If you don't listen to them, then British are not going to reform it. That is why they will go by the constitution. They do not believe in masses. Could you see? There, what kind of methods they use? Prayer, petition, protest. And whatever the tools they use, press, they use, and legislature. Whoever enters into legislatures, they are going to use that platform to highlight the issues, grievances of the public, to criticize the government. Press. Third one, meetings of Indian National Congress, annual meetings. But it is not sufficient. But for the first step, they laid strong foundation for the future leadership. That is what the criticism of these people is. It is not sufficient. But moderates say that we are in the beginning stage. British were very powerful at this point of time. In 1880s and 1890s, British are the most powerful empire on the earth. They are the most powerful empire on the earth. Now, when we are dealing with that kind of power, it's like when you are fighting with America, the most powerful country, nation on the earth. Now, they have more resources, they have more military power. It is easy for them to crush. That's why we are in a different time periods. We have to use these kind of methods only to counter this. Because our Indians are not aware about their rights, their duties. That is why we have to nurture this democracy. We have to nurture this liberalism. Because common Indians are more attached to caste, religion, regionalism, their own methods of their own ways of living. They altogether, it's completely different. So at this phase, moderates justify their actions that At this point of time, Indians are not ready for this kind of politics. We have to teach them. We cannot have enmity with the British. So we have to cooperate with the British. Then British will bring reforms which is going to help India. Clear? So this is what tools they use like this: press and legislature and meetings, annual meetings, and they will try to create awareness in the limited way. They try to do that. Prayer, petition, protest. Belief is no masses. The British, they listen to some extent. Their success is this one. When it comes to the moderates' success, what are their demands? Indianization of civil services. You are ruling India. If Indians are not there in the civil services, in the higher positions, what kind of administration you are doing? It's alien administration. It is not Indian administration. They are going to demand Indianization of civil service. For their protest, Public Service Commission was appointed. Public Service Commission was appointed. In 1886, Public Service Commission was appointed. Next one, some more issues are also there. In second one, legislature they created in Indian Councils Act, but who is the representatives? They nominated Rajas, but they are not going to talk about people. Common people means educated classes need to be given representation. For that, Indian Councils Act 1892 was passed. We will see in detail provisions later in another class. It was passed. It increased more Indians in the legislation. It became successful. This also Public Service Commission, they reformed to increase more number of Indians in different services. Third one, they are going to ask reduce expenditure. Why British administration spend huge amount of money? Administrators are living lavish life, but people are reeling under poverty, famine conditions. Reduce the taxes to the peasants. If you reduce the expenditure, that money can be utilized for the welfare of the people. And for that, Welby Commission on expenditure also appointed. In 1895, Welby Commission, like this. So, Indianization of civil service, Public Service Commission was appointed, Indian Councils Act was passed, and reducing the expenditure. Even in British House of Commons, they on resolution also passed that Indian civil service related exam is going to happen both in India also, London also. So till the time it was in London only. Indians have to go there and they have to write there. And how many people can go and write the examination? So that is also they are going to pass one resolution and it will take some time to come to India. In this way, civil services related reforms they try, legislation related reforms they will try. They are going to become successful to some extent, reducing expenditure. Most importantly, their forms of politics created awareness about economic exploitation. Economic exploitation. They highlighted initially they believed that British are good for India, but when they studied a lot, they come to the conclusion that the British policies are exploiting India economically. Dadabhai Nauroji popularized drain theory, drain of wealth, drain of wealth. From India, a lot of resources were exported to London. Three people, this is called economic critique, economic critique by the moderates against British Raj. What is this economic critic? Three economists, great economists were there. Dadabhai Naoroji. Second one, R.C. Dutt. Third one, M.G. Ranade. M.G. Ranade. They were economists. They studied since the establishment of East India Company, and they have written books. M.G. Ranade has written essays on Indian economy. He has written Economic History of India. Economic History of India. He has written. Dadabhai Naoroji has written Poverty and Un-British Rule. Poverty and Un-British Rule in India. That means in India poverty is there. That is because of un-British rule. The true British rule believes in sense of justice and fair play, but they are not playing that game here. They are giving liberty to liberty to people of England, but they are not giving that kind of liberty to Indians. They are going by the constitution, rule of law there, but they are not doing this. They are following equality, but when it comes to here, they follow racial discrimination. Poverty and un-British rule in India. R.C. Dutt wrote Economic History of India. M.G. Ranade wrote Essays on Indian Economy. These books have clearly highlighted, exposed the hypocrisy, the double standards of British administration. This is one of the biggest contribution of moderates because they were able to highlight the British exploitation through systematic evidence. And they used press also, they used legislatures. Gopal Krishna Gokhale, when he entered into legislature, he used whatever limited powers given to the members of legislature, he used that time and that weapon to expose the kind of double standards maintained by the British. Even British Executive Council was also afraid of Gopal Krishna Gokhale's speeches in legislature, because he is going, when he was going entering into legislature, he well read, he will do a lot of research with all facts and evidence, and he is going to attack the government. And it exposed clearly the double standard and also the kind of economic exploitation. This is the biggest contribution. So whatever liberty British were giving, whatever press freedom, whatever liberty, rights they have given, within that given context, within that constitutional limits, they were trying to highlight the British policies, and this is biggest contribution, that their contribution really led to the spread of nationalism. And when it comes to the leaders which we have seen in the previous class, initial leadership in Bengal region, Surendranath Banerjee, Anand Mohan Bose; from Madras region, P. Anandacharlu, Subramanya Iyer, Veeraraghavachari; from Bombay and Gujarat, Dadabhai Naoroji, Feroz Shah Mehta, Badruddin Tyabji. These are all the leaders. These leaders were the initial leaders, and they highlighted this. Gopal Krishna Gokhale, M.G. Ranade, these people were initial leaders. They highlighted this. So with that, we are going to end. So let me draw the map leaders once again. In the previous class also I have written. Once again I'll write here. They used press, they used literature, they used speeches to expose the British. In Bengal, Surendranath Banerjee, Umesh Chandra Banerjee, Anand Mohan Bose. So many leaders are there. These are important. When it comes to Madras, P. Anandacharlu, Subramanya Iyer, Veeraraghavachari. When it comes to this side, Dadabhai Naoroji, M.G. Ranade. Gopalakrishna Gokhale, Firoz Shah Mehta, Badruddin Tyabji, and so on. So these are initial leaders. They contributed. So their contribution laid foundation for the next phase. The limitation is they do not believe in masses. Their speeches are limited to upper elite. And when they are believing in the British, but the British are not giving that respect to Indian leadership, and their limitations, they are not given importance also. The British continuously using their force to stop the meetings, to curtail the freedom of speech. When universities were there, when universities are considered as the places of liberalism, they are going to put curtailment on university freedom, freedom of expression in universities, government control will increase, local self-government's representation they are going to reduce, official control will increase. So they are talking about democracy, liberalism. British are going to impose more government control. They want press freedom, they are going to put restrictions. And when they don't want divide and rule policy, they are going to follow divide and rule policy. That's why, even though in 1905, a lot of petitions were made not to partition Bengal, that is going to be partition. That we will see in the coming class. All right. Questions? Remember, three important questions. These are the important questions for prelims. What is the book written by M.G. Ranade? Dadabhai Nauroji and R.C. Dutt. Book written by these three people. These are three important questions because their economic critique, drain of wealth theory, was one of the greatest contributions of moderates. Even today also, whatever research they have done is the reference to understand British exploitation. Right? Thank you. Thank you very much.